G'day everyone. Microphone is turned on and working today. This is Drangadad. Not financial advice, just the way I'm looking at the market. Sorry about yesterday. I pull the microphone when I go away because otherwise it just sits here and is turned on even if my computer's turned off. So anyway, been an interesting couple of days. Just jump straight into it. Basically, there's a chance we get to 100K pretty soon. This might have something to say about that. Pretty substantial pullback on this 1 hourly candle, and we're not done yet. Going to be big volume if the volume keeps coming through. Like, not even halfway through the candle yet, and it's already close to one of the highest. What's that mean? Potentially, the big guys are actually starting to sell. Whether it actually means we're going to pull back or not, I have to have a look. Sorry, that was 4 hour. Okay. Sorry, I thought I was on the alley. That was 4 hours. So I will just go back to that because 4 hours is something I'm looking at, and it was kind of the reason why I didn't close out any longs yesterday before I went to bed was because we still haven't closed a 4 hour within the 20 period, one standard deviation Bollinger Bands. And we've tapped it a couple of times with wicks, so it's sort of retested it. But even through here, it looked like it was going to break within. And for 2 candles here, we just ground up and just kept closing above it. And I guess one thing with big moves on Bitcoin is with big moves, you go to the bigger time frames to look for proper pullbacks. As you can see here on the 4 hour, this looked fine and just kept grinding up. That there was probably a take profit level, but as soon as you broke back above that, on volume increase, it's probably going to go again. With the 4 hour on a big Bitcoin breakout, you don't necessarily pull all the way back into the middle of the Bollingers. Whereas with the 1 hour, you do get that a bit more frequently. So, the 1 hour here essentially broke above. Like, again, you don't always get it, but 1 hour never closed below, kept going, broke within, and then did retest the mid band. And it actually retested the opposite band as well. So that is why I was sort of looking at it as sideways, but there was a potential double top in here as well yesterday. I mentioned this in the Discord, but we had sort of this move here that there never had a closure on the hourly below this level. There was bugger all in it, but I was waiting for that closure to really confirm that this is a double top, which would give targets on like an hourly close basis. The target's going to be somewhere around this level here, which is a key volume level of 83,200. And that is still a key level. This candle here on the hourly is looking pretty nasty. I would kind of expect a little bit of support here. But the speed at which this is coming back down suggests we could be getting close to the top. It could just be a lot of people taking profit. And we may still push or grind further up. Because there is plenty of selling coming into the charts. at levels pretty well all the way up to 100K now. And I think if it can go to it, it probably will. But at the same time, we are pretty overdue for pullback. So an hourly closure within this Bollinger here will probably see us come back to the mid band. But realistically, for a full breakdown, I'd want to see hourly closures below 86,400, say, which will probably be just below this lower Bollinger Band anyway. And then you're sort of looking at, okay, when does it break back within that Bollinger Band? The scalping I kind of use in a similar way. Like if I'm holding a position in profit, I'll try and hold on until I either see a major reversal candle or just that first break within the Bollinger Bands. So that's kind of what I'm waiting on at the moment. Yeah, that'll be an interesting level there. If we do fail this level, which probably by the time we get down there, I'm expecting that to get down there fairly slowly. If it does, then probably going to be pretty close to the 200 EMA as well. I would expect that to provide some support, especially if we haven't gotten to 100K yet. I think now we've kind of cracked that 90 in a big way, and I think 100 is pretty good chance that we get there. As you can see, we're finding a bit of support here on the hourly. Let's see how that goes. In terms of my indicators and stuff, we are overcooked. Like, you rarely see these bands above that midline, which is the -50 level there. Everything's sort of higher than it normally would be. We do have some bearish divergence here, though, too. And this will be showing up on people's RSIs and all sorts of stuff. So confirming below here, it probably is confirming a top, at least temporary, with pullbacks into the 83 sort of level. Just be careful because it can still grind up. Just be prepared if you do short from one of these levels. Be prepared for it to go well past your entry level to the top side. If we do hit 100K, I'm expecting that to be a pretty decent pullback area, just because there's not many orders above that. If we have a look at quick look, see if there's anything here on the 48. Yeah, so we're not even going up to there on here yet. Looks like 85,750 is probably going to be a reasonable level as well. There's actually not much on this at 83,200. A little bit, but generally, well, that double top failed anyway, so it's probably not actually that much of a target. This here would definitely be a target, 85,750. Lots of liquidity sitting up in here. People have shorted this pretty hard. Good on them. They've done pretty well with that, I think. As you can see here, up around that, there's a lot of orders coming in just before the 100K mark. So be careful. We may just push through because there is some decent ones up there. But this is why, like, I think once they've cleaned this up, by the time we get there, we could have a heap of orders like we got here. Like, a lot of these orders weren't here back when we were at these lower levels. So it may push through. If it pushes through, I doubt we'll see the 105, but 100K, I'm pretty certain there's going to be a lot of people taking profit around there. Interestingly, the open interest dropped quite significantly right at the peak, or right near the peak. So people are taking profit, they're taking positions off the table. I think we're starting to get pretty close to the end of this. We got the same sort of thing on the way up here as well, like people were closing positions. Overall, the open interest is dropping. So this last little push up is kind of, could be a fake out. I mean, it looks like a fake out the way it's pulling back at the moment. I'd like to see what it does around that 50 EMA, about 3 minutes. So I would kind of expect this to actually bounce back up and at least come back in to retest this level here. So if we reject off 91, let's call it 92K, and go to the downside again, then it's we're going to go further down. And that brings 87,500 into play pretty quick, I would think. But there's a lot of orders sitting down around these levels here, down to around 84,200. And you're going to see lots more come in here, I think. I'd be very surprised if we get to 78K. Seems like a long way away from here. Looking at the chart, it's only a couple of days away if you go down at the same rate we went up, but I think there's going to be plenty of support through here. So if we do go down, it's probably going to be a bit of a grind. We could be starting a bit of a accumulation pattern here, or distribution or accumulation pattern. So rather than a full pullback, we may just get a pullback in time before that final leg up. There is typically about a 30% pullback once we hit sort of a key level on a run up. So just having a quick look at this. So hard to do measurement tool. So 30% pullback would actually bring us way back down into the breakout level. Yeah, back down into 65 even. Holy shit. I'm just going to confirm that I'm not talking shit there. Let's have a look at the daily. I mean, you'd do a decent pullback here. See, very similar pattern here. We sort of ground up, last pump, sideways for a little bit. I mean, over a longer time frame, but you can see it on the shorter time frames here. We're doing something similar. Pump up, pull back, and then another run. So from the top of that pump, 21% down. That would make probably more sense on this run. If that's the top, 21% brings you straight back into that breakout level. Return to the scene of the crime sort of level. It seems like a long way away from here, but there's a lot of confluence with that being potential move. Now, we come back over here. This one never got back to the breakout level, but what do we got? That there, the breakout happened here, right? Essentially, that's the breakout, new all-time high, sideways for about a week, and then it kept going. I actually don't think we're going to get a run like this. If we get a run like this from here, 250Ks on the cards. This stage, I don't know that's going to happen, but like, so that's the little pause after the breakout. Let's measure it off from here though. Just assume that that's where we're at, about 28%. So when we do get big run ups on Bitcoin, we can retrace quite a way. This is where it was starting to get really bubbly, and you're looking at 25% corrections plus once we get to new highs. And you can see here, not a massive difference between the new highs. Pullback's getting less. FOMO was real. So you're only getting another 6% on that. And that was the sort of the double top there. So look, I don't think this cycle will be as big a run up as this one. I just think there's going to be too many people taking profit on the way now that we have the ETFs involved. But at the same time, it'd be pretty epic if it did. So we're only from the 125-ish level, we're only 35% away. And that's a pretty short run for Bitcoin, given how far we've just moved in not very long. Just moved 28%. But yeah, look, expecting it to be probably a slower grind up from here. I think that first move is a big move. The traders are going to come in and really control this market, like the big guys. So pull back into the daily 13, 20 level, about 80K, would make a lot of sense. We could be going pretty well sideways here for the rest of the month and just sort of accumulating. But then I would expect to sort of start that run back up. Back 100K on that run, like that would make a fair bit of sense, just from a liquidity perspective. And then sort of pull back into that level a bit, and then run up and just be doing these sort of moves out into next year. And because we've moved so quickly, and because sort of somewhere after May next year would, based on cyclic moves, sort of May to November next year, should theoretically see the top, we could actually see something similar to this. So a run up to basically that 125K mark, which is kind of a key target. And then a more dramatic pullback, like right back into at least these sort of levels, if not back into the 75K sort of level. And then we make another try at the all-time high, and we just tick over, get that new high, and then the whole economy shits the bed, basically. Timing would work out with typical timing for these things across the board, across stocks and stuff. So, but there is also another argument. Historically, US markets do build, just sort of continuously build with small pullbacks up to the inauguration of a new president, and then they sell off for a couple of months. So wouldn't that be interesting if we basically build up, and it's a sell the news event, like this run up, Trump hasn't even done anything yet, and it all seems to be on the basis of he's crypto friendly and blah blah blah. If we run up to inauguration, which is start of January, and we sort of hit close to that expected high up into the 120 sort of area, and then we have a 3-month pullback down into sort of March, April, and then we go again, that sort of wouldn't be a stupid idea for Bitcoin. Okay. And this here maybe just a push up into even the 130s to 150s, just because there's going to be a bit of FOMO around it. But at that point, if we are bubbling up those sort of levels, the market is pretty skittish at the moment. I mean, Berkshire Hathaway have more cash than they had before the GFC, but they were about a year early in picking the GFC as well. They went in cash early, and then obviously started to deploy it as the market dropped during the GFC. So, there is so many signs suggesting we're 6 months to a year away from a major correction, potentially even 3 months, to be honest, like timing wise, based on previous ones. So, that being said, stochastic momentum is close to crossing back down to the downside. Bitcoin longs, we have actually started to go a little bit sideways here. So typically what we said then, and we'll go into this chart to show better, as Bitcoin longs are dropping, we tend to go a little bit sideways while there's another accumulation phase, and then we can go back up again, and the Bitcoin longs will drop again on the way up. So that has happened on pretty much every major pump. You get a little bit of sideways action, and they start just continuously taking profit. And then, a little bit more sideways action. And then as it pumps again, they take profit. So, we've only sort of hit the first leg, but we have basically removed one lot of longs. And it could be these ones, but that's a pretty major drop a couple of days ago. And we did see a pullback after that, and we're kind of seeing a bit of sideways action now. Yeah, it's not giving us a huge read at the moment, but what I want to see is realistically these resetting as much as possible. Once you start to see this tick up again, we're probably going to go on another leg up. All right. And the tick up doesn't have to be too much. This was a pretty big sideways accumulation there as well. But you can see there towards the end of it, they were accumulating, and then we went up. So still might be a useful tool. Bit of accumulation happening today. Keep an eye on that one. That one's suggesting a pretty major sell-off is occurring. Yeah, shit. Oh, it actually gave a sell signal. I haven't calibrated this particular indicator. I just find it interesting sometimes for Confluence, but every now and then I do watch it. It hits the target sometimes, but not. The buy and sell signals haven't been great lately without any calibration. Yeah, so the general market use is still sort of trudging sideways. I think most of it's kind of been going a bit of sideways consolidation. Equal weights staying high, which is good. Yeah. Interesting, we did tap that that trend line, and we have pulled back into this larger trend line. If we can confirm above this trend line and grind up, I think what I was talking about yesterday while my microphone wasn't on was we could actually just run up, just hitting into the top of this trend line. If we break above that, then holy shit, we'd be in basically the end of the cycle. We'd be in the blow off top sort of sugar rush phase of the cycle. But yeah, look, following this sort of trend line, either one of these or being in this area up until inauguration on January would align with history, put it that way. Not that markets have to do that, but it would make a lot of sense. And then a break below this after that point would probably see you come back down into the 176 level, okay, on RSP. US 2000, bit of a pullback there, which is interesting because IWM typically performs, it's one of the best performers after a new president is elected, at least into that pullback at inauguration. But decent pullback signal here. It is in the bullish control zone, so not super worried about that at the moment. Could just be a pullback into this wick here and then a move away. That would make a bit of sense. XLI. XLI is staying high. So this equal weight, XLY, XLP is still high as well. So no major pullback on that yet. KRE still grinding sideways. Home construction. This is probably one of the things that concerns me. Once these start sort of rolling over, if they're making lower highs, lower lows compared to the rest of the market, that is typically your topping signal for the economy in general. I think breaks below this level here will suggest that, yeah, we're getting very close to the end, if not already there. XHB, same sort of deal. It needs to find some support here and kind of push back up to new all-time highs to really suggest we've got another year left, I would think. DJR gold, break above there would actually be quite bullish, but I'm kind of expecting a bit of resistance here. So we may be getting close to a bottom on gold and a temporary bottom on DJI. DJT gold has not really gone anywhere. Break below this, and I would suggest we're actually going to get an earlier pullback than what people may be thinking. Bit of a pullback into Christmas rather than after Christmas. Advanced decline line is ticking to the downside as well. Sorry, I was going to mention that. So you can see here we're ticking below that moving average. Typically, once it does that, there's a bit of sideways action or a bit of a pullback. Just have to wait and see what happens there. I'm expecting sort of more sideways, but that is a gigantic gap too on a lot of these stocks and indices in the US. VIX is still dropping back below some pretty critical levels there that we haven't actually seen at this low since August. So again, that's suggesting probably up is more likely. A little bit of a bounce on the skew here. We kind of needed it at these levels. Needs a bit of support here, but skew is kind of dying a little bit in general. The fact that it's kind of looks like it's topping out and wants to start to trend down suggests we could be getting a bit closer to what happened around end of September 2021. Yeah, not. I don't think it's really showing signs of that yet, but it's showing signs that we're getting close. Like maybe one last push up. I think if we did get one last big push up, it's probably, you'd have to think it's getting close to the last one before a major correction. But yeah, that's pretty low. So a bounce from here wouldn't be untoward. But it's not giving us a great read, apart from the fact that it had a pretty big pull down yesterday, or the day before yesterday, sorry. Haven't got today's read yet. So that, yeah, pretty decent pullback. Hence why I think we're just going sideways, maybe a little bit down. DAX is one I haven't looked at recently, but I did get it pointed out that DAX is forming a bit of a, you could call it a triple top, you could call it a head and shoulders. That's a pretty bearish sign for markets in general around the world. DAX isn't necessarily a leader, but it is a pretty major economy. So you're looking at moves back into 18 or even down below this. Basically a move into the 200 EMA. That could see a pretty decent pullback on the rest of the market. It's only 3% away though, so maybe just a pullback into these levels wouldn't be unheard of. It seems to make sense to do that. If we start to break below that and sort of retest and confirm, then yeah, the global markets are probably going to be looking pretty unhealthy at that stage. HSI seems like it wants to come into this box that we've been waiting for a while now. I mean, it's not a bad spot if it wants to turn around, but in general, the market seems pretty unhappy with the stimulus in inverted commas. It's not really a stimulus as such. They're sort of putting debt back onto the balance sheet rather than having it off the balance sheet at the moment. So I'll have to see what it does in reality, but it's pulled back into this level here. It's in between the 0.5 and the 618 retracement. So that is a good level for a bounce. I just have a funny feeling, excuse me, that it may actually pull back into here. 1912, actually. UK market, not looking great. This would be a pretty big distribution. It turns out to be one. You sort of kind of would expect a little bit of a bounce, at least to move back in to some of these moving averages at this level. But yeah, UK market is not looking healthy at all. Japanese market's pretty similar, actually, really. Like, looks like would be accumulation, but yeah, again, just not looking healthy. The US market's the only major one that seems to be trending up and to the right at the moment. I think even the Aussie one, where the fuck did I put the Aussie market there? Aussie market's kind of grinding up with the US, but still, it's not looking particularly healthy either. It's looking more like the DAX at the moment, German market. So yeah, pull back into this support level here, clean up these vector candles would make a lot of sense. Before one more try to the upside, maybe. TLT. TLT's retesting this level. This was a vector candle. That's a pretty major move down. Bond market seems to be starting to disagree with the rest of the market a bit. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Okay, that's the first real decent confirmation of a pullback we've had on this bond indicator. that's suggesting we may be topping on the markets, and we may get that sort of 5% pullback pretty soon. 2-year, 10-year didn't uninvert. Oh, sorry, didn't invert again, but yeah, the bond market's definitely suggesting that it's not happy with the market going up at the moment, or not happy with what the Fed's doing. Copper is still falling. It broke through all these key levels, so next level is $4 and change. Take that off now because it's pretty useless. And then yeah, if we break through the $4.05 level, then this is your last real support, I would say, and it should be a pretty solid support. So $3.95, and will probably bring us, if it breaks that, you're down into the $3.68. But if copper keeps dropping, that is a sign. Like they call it Dr. Copper for a reason. It tells you the health of the market, and at this stage, it's telling you the market's not. There's a lot of signals, a lot of topping signals. Gold. This is the level I was talking about yesterday when the microphone was off. I still want to see it come back a little bit more into 2555. I'll just move that down into there now. But gold could keep pulling back even more. I just don't. I mean, even into this area here and just sort of sideways while it waits for the 200 to catch up would make a bit of sense as well. What do we get? Inflation. Okay. Well, it was in line with forecast, but it was higher than previous. So core inflation was the same month on month, same inflation rate month on month, the same. Fed Chair Powell will be talking. That could move markets. Retail sales could move markets. Yeah, building permits could move them as well. So got a bit of news coming out this week. Wouldn't surprise me if we have a little bit of a pullback here. I mean, the indicators are suggesting pullback is almost a given. Silver's getting hammered, same as gold. Let's see what's there. Not really interested in it yet. Again, I haven't bought back into gold yet either when I sold it last week. Oil is at a pretty critical level. It actually looks like it's forming a head and shoulders at the bottom, which not sure how often that really plays out. But if it does, say we get that full move, you're back into 57 sort of territory, which would probably align with about there, which is a pretty solid volume level around that 58, 57 mark. At this stage, that actually looks pretty likely, especially if everyone is thinking the economy's up the shit. If China's not going to be using much oil, stuff like that, then this could drop quite heavily. Dixie. Wow, that's a major move. Like you'd expect it to have a bit of a break around here, wouldn't you? If we break above this level, then yeah, it's interesting. Why does everyone want US dollar at the moment? Just because they're expecting interest rates to stay higher for longer. about it. I think it's potentially bonds related. People are probably piling into bonds, expecting to bounce. You do kind of get this as well. You can get Dixie going up, gold coming down, and general stocks can go down. But this run up here, where gold was going up, Dixie was going up, stocks were going up, is a little bit rare. Yeah, wouldn't surprise me if this does break the level, but I can't expect soon on that. Aussie versus US dollar has started to work its way back towards this vector. So vector candle, massive wick. Did flag that a few weeks ago. That seems like it would be a juicy target for it, but I honestly didn't expect it to come back down. Otherwise, I would have bought US dollars when I. And Japanese yen is pulling back hard. We could see another carry trade unwind thing moment. I did hear some stuff the other day that it is still actually happening. It's just no one's talking about it at the moment. But if the Japanese central bank comes out and says, no, we're raising interest rates again, then expect this to pump and Dixie to drop and probably the stock market to go through a decent correction as well. So that could be a trigger, something to keep an eye on, because Japanese central bank tends to not let its currency drop by that much without some sort of intervention. And these areas here are all been interventions of one shape or another. Euro US dollar has broken this low here, so 104 is probably the next level for it. 105, 104. In free fall at the moment, and realistically, I mean, this could stop here. There was a fair basing level there before the pump up, but if we do come more into this, then you would expect the Dixie to be breaking out into some clear air as well. We could actually sweep that area. There's some bizarre shit going on under the hood here. This isn't a normal pump, that's for sure, in the stock market and crypto, to be honest. Global liquidity is pulling back a little bit, but it has gone on a bit of a run as well. Percentage of stocks above 50-day moving average has pulled back. That could be the start of a bit of a run to the downside again. So it's suggesting pullback is sort of more likely than not. The depth of the pullback will be interesting. Yeah, I doubt we'll get back into these sort of levels on Tesla. Could be wrong, but Tesla does swing pretty hard. Nvidia pull back into this trend line, wouldn't go astray. Google's really struggling, and I pointed this out last week. This vector candle here and the closure of that gap, Google's probably going to find it hard to break above this level, especially if the rest of the market's coming down. So I think that there for the gap fill is a pretty good target for Google. RK had a bit of a pump actually. If RK can stay in this band here and trend upwards, that would kind of align with historical lower caps and hypergrowth kind of doing well after a new president was elected. Interesting level here on Apple. Apple is not looking super healthy. Probably to do with like ASML got told the other day to stop selling chips into China. There's probably a lot of Dutch people that are really pissed off at the United States at the moment, because China is a big market for them. So it does not surprise me that they haven't really bounced yet. But Apple makes a lot of their stuff over there, so plus I think they're gonna really struggle. Apart from the fact they bought out some cheaper models, I think Apple will struggle through a big downturn. So I think investors are a bit cautious on Apple at the moment. Amazon though broken to a new all-time high. That's interesting. Not entirely sure why that is. Ah, okay. They're going to compete with Temu. Yeah, probably why. Huh, interesting. Um, Amazon had a good day, but everyone else has kind of struggled. And it's whether a lot of this is accumulation or distribution. AMD is struggling. Typically, you don't see the semis struggling as much as they are if we're going on another bull run anytime soon. SMCI is still struggling. Stellantis has had a pullback. So no, like the car manufacturers are suggesting, or they're not suggesting that the economy is super healthy. Uh, breaks to the upside of here, and yeah, we'll probably go on another run across the board of stocks. But at this stage, they're not looking great. Total crypto market cap bounced off the the 3 trillion mark as well. That is a pretty key level. So we broke the all-time high on total crypto market cap, but only just, and we rejected off that. So that's actually probably more of an argument for a topping signal than most of the other stuff I've looked at. But that's a pretty substantial level there. If we break above that, then I think we'll be on the next leg up. That's going to be interesting. Probably not a bad signal that we're topping. Bitcoin dominance is pushing pretty hard still. No sign of a slowdown in that just yet. ETH dominance is coming down, so we could actually be. So ETH is obviously pulling back more than Bitcoin at the moment. Back in line ETH. So shorts are dropping already. They've been starting to build a little bit over the last couple of days. Yeah, I'd expect when we do get a pullback, they're going to drop pretty hard though. Tend to get a little build up at the top, and then they drop hard as price comes down. People taking profit tend to take profit on shorts quicker than longs. ETH probably back into 3,000 would be a good level for ETH to pull back into, at least short term level. I mean, this level here is probably nothing level, to be honest. You'd almost expect it to come all the way back into this volume here if it was going to pull that far back. But Ethereum pulling back into the value area low on the 40% band, and then push back into this high volume area would make a lot of sense. Just based on what it's looking like at the moment, looks like a pretty decent pullback. Yeah, CME's kind of been the one to watch in terms of it hasn't really dropped. It's kind of ignored what's happened in the after hours and just kept grinding up so far. But yeah, interesting candle so far. Still 1.5 hours left on that, and there's like 4 hours left on normal Bitcoin. Nearly. Yeah, I mean, it looks like it wants to grind up. We got our down day there. I was mentioning the other day that it's very rare that Bitcoin goes on more than a 7-day run without a red day. And that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But I also said, and I can't remember whether it was when I was talking about the same thing or just yesterday, that those red days typically they can be pretty temporary, and it doesn't have to be a big pullback. It can just be sideways for a couple of days or even weeks before the next leg up. So I don't know. I'm still just having to wait basically for the price action on probably the 1 hourly and particularly the 4 hourly time frame. As I said over here, like the hourly here is actually, if we close below that Bollinger there, just make that a bit bigger. If we close below this Bollinger here on the hourly, then 88,900 is the target, but just based on this move, you'd probably expect it to hit the other side, the other Bollinger as well, which could happen over a number of hours, especially since we're nearly out of the US trading time at the moment. We tend to grind a little bit in the Asian hours. But this will come up a little bit, probably into a similar level as the 50 EMA, and price action could easily come into that sort of level, so around the 87,800. At the moment, the hourly candle looks like it does want to stay under there. The 4 hour, on the other hand, I mean, that perfect sort of close on that volume level. Wouldn't be surprised if this pulls up more into this vector candle here either. But yeah, again, we've bounced off the 4 hour Bollinger. 4 hour, 20 period, 1 standard deviation. I need to see a closure inside that before I am going to think that we're going to actually pull back harder. And even then, you're still just looking around that 85K mark for the mid band, probably a little bit higher, but I would expect it to come back into that level. So you got a vector candle wick there, you got vector candles in here. And to be honest with you, it's probably, if we do break within that for the first time in ages, it's probably going to pull back into the bottom band here and probably retest the 50 EMA on the 4 hour. So somewhere into the 82s. The bottom of this vector candle seems like a pretty appropriate sort of level. At that point, do we have a more of a significant breakdown? Possibly. What's our 21% is into this level here. So pull back into the 200 wouldn't be unheard of, but it certainly is not something you'd see a lot of in a big bull run. It's just at the moment, with Wall Street involved, it's not obvious as to what we might actually get. We have had some topping signals, but at the same time, this run up here we got topping signals quite early on this run, this last pump. Decent bottom signal there, but we got a reasonable one, I guess, but nothing compared to these. So this could just be the secondary top that we do often see after a major top. And yeah, it's kind of, there's a lot of liquidity to the downside. And I think if we look at liquidation map across all, obviously, even with this little pullback today, we're still heavy on the longs. 7-day, massively heavy on the longs. It's just a matter of how long it's going to keep pushing up and allow these to build before trying to come back and swipe them. Look at the 30-day, that's insane. All right. Interesting that it sort of tops out around that 100K mark too. Finance got a little bit of action, a bit higher than that, but 100K seems to be a pretty good target. I was looking at this morning as well. We've had some pretty big trades. That was an interesting one on the way up today. It's only the 50th biggest of all time versus the 9th here. The 9th did see a pullback, but then it went again. So it's kind of suggesting that, yeah, people are expecting this to be close to the top, I think. I'd be surprised if that was a buy, just because it happened after this pump started, but you never know. FOMO is real on all price levels, but coin hasn't had a big trade today by the look of it. And the fact that coin hasn't really pumped on this move today suggests, yeah, people think that we're getting pretty close to the top. In fact, coin's dumped the Savo, so these are probably take profits, and I would expect Bitcoin to be pulling back just based on that. It's filling the gap here probably, so another couple of days downside for coin is likely, which will probably be in line with the rest of the market, but consumer discretionary looks like it's topping out. No major trades on that. Healthcare has just been in free fall since that level there. Nobody's liking the healthcare sector at the moment. Industrial, it's kind of sideways. That was a pretty good take profit level. That was probably a buy. These are probably buys as well, to be honest. Kind of just eking sideways. Not much in comms as well. It is pushing higher, but biotech might be finding a base around here actually. There's a lot of rotation going on across different sectors, so you're not seeing a free fall of everything at once. It does seem to just be rotation and a bit of profit taking and making the small percentages while everyone else is trying to figure out where everything is going. Real estate, not looking super healthy either. Yeah, that's about it. I'd like to see another big trade come into this around the top, but yeah, I think people have taken some profits on the way up. All right, that'll do. That was a long one, just because I missed the last couple of days. As I said, I think the key thing for me watch out for a bigger pullback is closure of the 4-hour within that Bollinger Band. I think that's going to really tell us what's going on. And look, if the 1-hour closes within its Bollinger Band, then I think we are closer than, yeah, we're pretty close to the 4-hour one that it would sort of, well, sorry, yeah, if it closes in here and then does its retrace into the mid band, that will probably bring you inside the 4-hour as well, because the 4-hour at the moment is sitting right at the bottom of this wick. That's what I'm looking at. If we break back above that, then probably pushing higher. But if we do push up to the 100k from here, it's probably going to be a grind. There might be some spurts, but I would expect any sort of pump to be met with a decent amount of selling, just profit taking, which is why it could take a little bit longer to get up there than what you might think. But yeah, wait and see what happens there. And upper targets 100k, lower targets are sort of on the way down. We got that 87.5 and then into the 83.5. Around 85 is probably going to be a pretty key level as well. All right. Catch us later.